All right, welcome back, Bio 10 students. I hate to give you bad news to start this lecture series, but this is a particularly complex process that we're going to talk about today. We're going to go into the details of photosynthesis. Remember that photosynthesis is the way that plants and algae create their own sugar, their own food, from carbon dioxide gas, water, and light. Photosynthesis occurs in the chloroplast organelles, little green organelles inside the cells of plant leaves and inside algae cells. And we're going to get into the details of that process of photosynthesis today. It's a complex process, just the way cell respiration was a complex process. So if you'll recall, last time we talked about how photosynthesis is sort of the opposite of cell respiration. Cell respiration is breaking food down, breaking down sugar in order to release the energy from it. Photosynthesis is building sugar, so it's the opposite. It's creating sugar rather than breaking sugar. And just like cell respiration went into different stages and it was complex, different things happen in different parts of the cell. Photosynthesis is also a complex process. It's essentially the reverse of cell respiration. And there's a lot of detail to it. All of photosynthesis occurs in one organelle, the chloroplast. And so this picture here that you're seeing on the screen is an image of a chloroplast. Chloroplasts are similar organelles to mitochondria. Remember, that was the organelle of aerobic respiration. Chloroplasts are sort of similar to mitochondria. They have an outer membrane here, and then there's an inner membrane inside that's folded up into what looks like stacks of plates. So these stacks of plates here are not really plates in the chloroplast. These are actually folds of the inner membrane. It's just the shape it's folded into. And these inner membrane folds are called thylakoids, these stacks here. And then there's an outer membrane, and between the inner and the outer membrane there's this fluid called the stroma. So that's the fluid that's between the inner membrane, the thylakoids, and the outer membrane of the chloroplast. All of photosynthesis occurs inside the chloroplast, but there are different parts of photosynthesis that occur in different parts of the chloroplast. The first part of photosynthesis is called the light reactions, or the photo reactions. This is the photo part of photosynthesis. And that occurs in the thylakoids, in the inner membrane of the chloroplast. And then there is the synthesis part of photosynthesis, which is the part where sugar is actually built. And that occurs in the stroma. But if you remember, the first rule of metabolism is you have to break things before you can build things. Like you have to break down your food before you can use those food chemicals to build new body parts. So photosynthesis is no exception to that basic metabolic rule. Before we can build sugar, which is actually the second part of photosynthesis called the Calvin cycle, which occurs in the stroma, before we can build the sugar, we have to break something. And what it is we're going to break is we're going to break one of the chemicals that's necessary for photosynthesis. We're going to break water molecules. Remember, photosynthesis is carbon dioxide and water and light become sugar and oxygen gas. So in the first part of photosynthesis, the light reactions, we're going to use the energy from light to break the bonds in water molecules and separate out the atoms in the water molecules. Now, water is H2O, so when we break the bonds in water molecules, we get H atoms, hydrogen, and we get O atoms, oxygen. Turns out the hydrogen atoms are what the chloroplast is after here. When the hydrogen is released from water, it can be used to, combined with carbon dioxide gas, to build sugar molecules. You can make sugar molecules from CO2 and hydrogen. So before we can build the sugar, we're going to need the hydrogen that's necessary to create sugar molecules. Sugar has a lot of hydrogen in it. So we're going to break water molecules, releasing the H's from the H2O's, and use those hydrogens to build our sugar when we combine them with CO2. So the breaking of water with light occurs in the thylakoids, that's the light reactions, and then using those hydrogens that are released plus carbon dioxide gas, we're going to build up sugar molecules out here in the stroma, and that's the Calvin cycle. The light reactions require light, and most plants and algae need sunlight to do this, although strong indoor light can do it too for indoor plants, for smaller plants, and for small amounts of algae. But if you have a large plant or a large amount of algae, you're going to need sunlight to get this going. The light energy, again, is used to break water molecules. The hydrogen that's released from broken water is going to be used along with carbon dioxide out here to build sugar molecules. So first we're breaking things and then we're building things. We're breaking water, then we're building sugar with the pieces. So in the next set of lectures, in this screencast lectures in this section, we're going to get into detail first about how plants and algae can use light energy to break water molecules, and then how the pieces of the water molecules are then combined with CO2 to make sugar out here. So we're going to get into a lot of detail, particularly about this first part, but also some about the second part here. I know it's technical, and this is essentially all chemistry. We're dealing with reactions here, and there's a number of them. But hopefully you can, if you hung through the second lecture in cell respiration, you should be able to hang through this one.